It really was at the forefront of that women's revolution.
Fuck the system is still kind of always in you. Breaking into London's male-dominated kitchens in the late 70s, when misogyny was still the norm.
Women were still only doing teaching, nursing. Those were very normal roles.
Opening her first restaurant at 26 in the middle of the 87 crash with banks falling like dominoes.
We're still in the recession after the 87 crash. Could have ended up a car wreck.
Raising a toddler as a single mum while building an empire that would change Auckland's hospitality forever.
This was my one opportunity to learn to get my restaurant. You can't get there unless you do the work.
Judith Tabron has built, lost, rebuilt and sold multi-million-dollar hospo icons. She drops the leadership, the money, survival lessons you won't find in any MBA. Buckle up, Buttercup. The matriarch of hospitality does not hold back.
Because to run a hospitality business, you need 3 key indicators weekly.
I have to say, out of everyone, having you here today is kind of a little bit of a dream come true for me. I feel like from the moment I landed in New Zealand about 9 years ago, you have been one of my entrepreneurial role models, and I am so excited to have you here today.
I'd just like to say, from the moment you walked in and I met you, the breath of fresh air that I felt of meeting somebody that understood hospitality marketing was unbelievable. I was delighted to meet you, and I couldn't wait to get on your band.
Oh, I love that. Actually, I'm skipping ahead, but let's start there, because that moment has meant so much to me, and it's taught me so much. So just for reference, that everyone knows, I had just landed in New Zealand. I had no network here. I had an agency specialized in hospitality marketing. Yet no network, no knowledge of anything or anyone here in the market. And Jude took a chance on working with me and working with my agency. And I always wondered, like I even remember saying to you, like why? I don't have that network or that proof of concept. And I think that decision says so much about how you do business in life. Trusting your gut and going against the grain, maybe?
I think that I have had a lot of marketing advice over my years because, my first husband was in advertising. My sister has always worked in TV and marketing, and in particular media. Her first husband was also creative. So, I had more than the best advice for most of my life, but I was really struggling to go. I knew where I needed to go, but I didn't actually know how to do it. And as soon as I spoke to you, I was like, oh my God, you know how to do this. I was just like, wow, because we hadn't really jumped on the Instagram wagon that much then.
No,
do you remember?
I do remember.
We certainly hadn't done any influencers. And I was very worried about the Soul brand becoming too old at that point.
Yeah,
I mean, this was 15 years into my reign there. And I really felt, gosh, we need to
shake things up.
We need to, attract a new era.
It says so much about you, though, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, because the way you explained it to me, and as I later learned, was the way your business was positioned. It was iconic. Everyone knew Soul. Everyone knows Soul. Everyone had an idea when you said that it was one of the leading restaurants in Auckland, really. And to have that level of vision of like, yes, we have that position now, but that's not going to bring us into the next stage.
Well, we were just planning a whole revamp of the interior as well. So, but yes, it was good. It was really good to meet you. You definitely. And as soon as I started talking to you, I knew you knew what you were talking about because I'd had so much good advice previously. So it was just like, boom. I just felt like it was a boom, boom moment. Hello, Yayla.
I absolutely loved it. But let's start at not at the beginning. Actually, let's start this week. Monday, 2 days ago, you were at the Cuisine Awards, one of the most prestigious hospitality awards, if not the most prestigious hospitality awards here in New Zealand, with your team of your new restaurant, First Mate's Last Laugh. And what happened?
Well, we were given a hat, which was totally amazing after a year, because obviously I still think we're getting the training wheels off.
Do you ever stop thinking that, though? I feel like after 18 years or 20 years at Soul, there were still days where you're like,
I don't think we're ever perfect. I think we've always got, I think there's always room to improve. I don't think there's any time you ever stop trying to become better and improve and just get better at what you do.
It's so interesting because when I was introduced to you originally, and you've lived up to this in every way possible, I was introduced to you as the matriarch of Auckland hospitality. It's really a role that at least I experience when seeing you in a world that is not traditionally a female centered business, or at least it wasn't when you started, because this has been running in your blood. This is you, your whole life. Take us back to how this started and how you got to this point.
Oh, goodness, that's a long time ago. Now, let me see. I came from a large family of 5 kids, and I was the one of the 5 involved with the cooking at home.
And you were doing the white bread.
Yeah. I was putting the mince on. Ooh. It was probably quite cheap then. And I liked cooking. I was the one baking the cakes at home. I was the one who was in the kitchen. And I went to a careers evening at school, and I looked at, going down to university and doing home science, and I spoke to the army about being apprentice there. They used to take on a lot of apprentices. And I spoke to the hotel manager of, the hotel's no longer there, but it was Logan Park in Green Lane. It was a large hotel, it had over 200 rooms, so it was big. And I said, he said, no, you can't just be a chef, said the hotel manager. And I said, well, what about if I be a receptionist first, then can I be a chef? Which obviously sounds totally ridiculous to me now.
It's also funny how it was perceived that would be a possible entry, but chef wouldn't.
Yes. Yeah. But anyway, he said, would I like to come and talk to the chef and see the kitchens? And I said, oh, yes, I would. So I went along there, and I walked out of there being offered an apprenticeship.
Amazing.
Yeah, that was a funny story I was telling you, is that actually there was something then, this was 1977, and I was offered a fare. The government had what was called a fare subsidy, which was for women employed in a training position and normally a male orientated role. So that's fare as an F-A-R-E, so not F-A-I-R, but it probably was F-A-I-R.
Yeah, it wasn't either of those, really.
So, yes, I ended up doing a 3-year apprenticeship as a chef in a hotel. I was actually finished by the time I was 19.
That is incredible, but also just to think back for a moment, we're 2025 now, that in 77, the government is subsidizing a salary to incentivize people hiring women in these roles, because that's a weird...
Well, it was the forefront. Up till that point, women were still only doing teaching, nursing. Those were hairdressing. Those were very normal roles. And it was at the forefront of that women's revolution. 77 was the year. I'm telling you,
it explains so much about how I know you right now. Like that revolutionary system, like fuck the system, is still kind of always in you.
I tell you, well, my parents never told us that we couldn't do anything. I mean, there was never any point that there would have been a handbrake on whatever we wanted to do.
So how was that then? Because the subsidy was there, you got offered the apprenticeship, but the mindset of your colleagues, I'm surely didn't change overnight, because it was still a novelty. So how were you received, and how were those first years?
Oh, let's see, all sorts of things went on there. Buckets of ice when I was taking a shower over my head, and so much stuff. So the language, there's just so much stuff went on there.
It's like when you think about that, and the things you kind of just take on the chin or accept as the reality. What did that do to you as a very young woman?
Well, I think I've always been resilient. I think coming from a family of 5 makes you more resilient.
Yeah.
You know, I just took it. Occasionally it got me down, and, you know, I'd go home and talk to my parents, who were just unbelievably supportive, and they'd say, oh, well, I think you should just take a sick day tomorrow. Just call in sick. And when they ask you, we'll be ready, we'll have written down what happened, and we will go in and we will say, this is what happened, and we're not happy about it. So, you know, because my father was such a guiding light, and then he would make me deal with it properly.
Yeah, and head on, like not hide from it. Take the day, regroup. And then...
Yes, and then go back with your situation in writing, because you'd felt victimized, right? So you had to go in and deal with the victimization, but by putting it in writing and getting it clear, it removed the emotion out of it.
Yeah, and I think that is so important, especially if you're operating in a male-dominated world. It's so easy to be written off and not be taken seriously because of your emotions. No matter how justified they are.
We don't even need to go down that one. Imagine that. I mean, you know, it's always, you know, you're aggressive, but I never say men are aggressive.
Oh, no.
Men are never aggressive. Women are aggressive.
You're aggressive, you're a bitch,
yes.
Or you're emotional.
Yes.
Like, it's either or.
All of those things.
Or hormonal, like all of the things.
Hormonal is all the time.
Oh, my God. So this is the world you grew up in. You did your apprenticeship and then you headed to London, I believe.
Yeah, well, I worked in Auckland and Wellington actually for a few years. And at 23, I decided, I actually got to the head chef's position far too early. I was the head chef at Debrett's.
I was just too good, guys.
No, it just wasn't enough people around that.
Yeah.
And by this stage, of course, I had nearly 7 years.
Yeah.
And I got to a position too fast. And then I realised I didn't really have enough knowledge. And so I packed my bags and off I went to London on my own. Which...
At 23, and also just even that realization, right? To have that realization of, I got promoted very young, and there's still so much for me to learn. I think many a person would just be in that position and be like, yeah, see, this is what there is, and I'm really rocking it. You are always looking for the next thing to learn. You've always had this growth mindset, this open mindset.
It's always changing. Food is changing. Food fashion is changing. Everything is changing. So you have to keep up with it.
Is it a have to keep up with it? Or is it also the joy, the depth of actually expanding? Because otherwise you're just doing the same pomme dauphine and steak.
It's always good to learn a new trick.
Have a new party trick. I enjoy it, got to say, your party tricks when you cook.
Yeah, it's always good to have a new party trick. Yeah, but it's not only about food. It's about all sorts of different things.
Right.
See something.
So 23 years old.
Yes, in London.
In London.
With the boys. In the dungeon.
What is this dungeon?
The kitchen's underground, right? In the dungeon.
True.
The kitchen's underground and the restaurant's 3 stories high. And all the food goes up and down in lifts. And there's 30 chefs, 12 on each shift. There's 2 other women in the kitchen, pastry and vegetable section. Yeah.
And how were you received? You walked in there, and how was that journey for you?
I learned a lot, but it was tough. Some days I went home in tears, but I had to keep telling myself I was learning. I went through sort of 3 or 4 different sections, and, I hadn't done much pastry work before I went there, so I put myself through 6 months in the pastry section. And then I had 6 months on the sauce section as a commie, and then the chef de partie, which is the head person on the fish section, he was sick for a week. And so I said, I'll do that job. So then I was doing my same job during the day. So I had like 5 doubles in a row.
Oh, my God.
So just about killed me. And to show that I could do it, I had no problem with the cooking. I was just very slow on the boning of the fish. I was super slow. So
it was a new section as well.
It was a new section. And in New Zealand, we don't really get that much, previously I hadn't seen much whole fish come in.
Yeah.
And I had to buy the fish off the truck out on the road in the morning and had to buy in tons, and I wasn't even sure what a ton was.
And then, so tell me about, first of all, before we go into, because there's one story that I know in that section that just blows my mind. Actually, let's go there. You were doing that. You were working the 5 doubles. You were under this immense pressure because you're like, surely I can do that if that guy's sick. And then I recall something about crayfish.
I said initially to the chef that I really do not like killing crayfish. I'd found this out when I had to kill them at a previous restaurant in New Zealand before I'd left. And they'd come out of a crayfish tank, and you have to put your knife straight through the head so that they don't kick their legs off. And anyway, it made me cry. Yeah. So I didn't like killing crayfish.
I know.
So
and you made the
So he told the head chef, and he was fine about it. And he said, okay, I'll get that done for you. But the problem is he told the sous chef. And the sous chef didn't really like me that much.
And he's like, this is her weakness.
He told all the chefs. And then from then on, you know, I'd get home and I'd put my hand into my handbag, and it would be crawling with those little little live crayfish. And then I'd open my locker and they'd be crawling around in my locker.
Oh my God.
Or they'd hang them off my chef's pants in the kitchen. It was just a constant thing. So stressful.
It's incredible when you think about it now, like the level of bullying. I know there must have been, and we spoke about this earlier as well, the sexual harassment, the comments, I mean, in general in the kitchen, but especially in that time.
Oh, my goodness. And you know what? They just wanted to tell you about this. Well, they tell each other about their sexual exploits, and they made sure that you could not
avoid it.
You couldn't avoid it. And, you know, they were crude, and the language, I mean, the language was just, and in some ways I've still got a bit of a potty mouth because you really do pick it up.
You have to know in the kitchen.
You can't help picking it up. I mean, I just, in fact, there's a couple of lines I could spurt out right now, but I know you'd all have to actually turn off. You wouldn't be able to listen to me. We'd have to beep it, so I'm not going to do it.
So what did that teach you about, not just about leadership, but also about being a woman in this world?
I don't think that worried me that much, to be. I mean, sure, it was annoying, but I think, as I said, I'm quite resilient. I just sort of took it in my stride and gave back as much as I could.
Yeah,
which I'm probably quite good at.
I think, you know, you're trained. It's a good training ground.
Yeah, but I really learned so much there because it was a really organised kitchen. And New Zealand kitchens at that stage were sort of a bit messy. You know, they were not. We didn't run it like an office. You know, it was just a little bit. Whereas here, it was very organised, you know, order sheets and recipes, and, you know, the whole thing was run like a machine, function sheets, and every time they left a piece of paper around, I'll be like, whoop, that's in my bag, oop, there's a recipe, grab that, writing down all the recipes in the, you know, in the pastry section, writing down everything that I was learning off other people, keeping my book. And the pastry chef, who was also a female, who trained at the Connaught and the Dorchester, and she was totally fantastic. You know what? Her recipe book was never left in the kitchen.
Oh, no.
She would only give you the recipes and you had to write them in your book. It was like this. There was no sharing.
That is insane.
Not like Instagram today.
No, exactly. Let's put it all over the internet. Yeah. So from what I'm hearing is that even in the hardest moments when you're coming home and you find a purse full of crayfish, you turned everything into a learning opportunity.
Oh, God. I mean, I would cry for sure sometimes.
Thank God. I'm like listening to you. I'm like, oh, my God.
No, but, you know, but you just got to pick yourself up and get back in.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't worth coming home. This was my one opportunity to learn, to get my restaurant.
Yes.
And you can't get there unless you do the work.
Yeah. And I mean, and learning you did. And like you said, this was your first experience with a restaurant and a kitchen that was really run like a business, not a passion project or a hobby. And I feel like that is also the signature that you have brought to Auckland, because I've been looking around, you know, I'm not from here originally, but there are very few restaurants that operate and have the longevity and have the consistency that any of your restaurants have. You bring this level of professionalism to a city that's not necessarily set up that way.
I don't really think about it like that myself, I guess. But consistency is key.
Yeah.
Consistency is key.
Because because there's a lot of places, it's a tough market, right? In general, hospitality always, I always used to say when I had my hospitality agency, like you have to have a little delusion to just keep leaning into this business. It's it's crazy hours, the margins aren't great, and for a lot of people it's a very volatile business. How did you manage to create that systemic professional way of doing business?
You can't do it on your own, of course. You have to have a team. Everything in hospitality is about your team and your team's attitude.
Yeah.
And you got to try and keep out those people who don't like people, because we all know there's quite a, we all got different personalities.
True.
I like people, so I don't have a problem wanting to please.
Yeah.
But that's not everybody's personality.
That's true. But I think you think if
but
you go into hospitality...
Yeah. No. You can have people in hospitality who, when you say to them in an interview, do you like people? And they say, well, not really. But they don't really know that I don't like people. But the thing is...
but they do know.
The thing is, they really do know that you don't like people.
Yeah.
But the team building is very important, and getting everybody in their place and making them feel comfortable within the team. And we've all got to have, what is it? One dream, one team. I mean, it's a very important word for hospitality.
That's interesting, because we were talking about it and you were beautifully and brutally honest as well. Like, coming from your background and, like you were saying, the language in the kitchen, it was a rough, like, dog-eat-dog world. That does shape your own leadership. And you were saying that maybe in the earlier days, let's say your leadership style was different than it is today.
Oh, I think so. And I often think that with people who are new to leadership, this is definitely me, it's stressful. And therefore you can overreact.
Yeah. And
be nasty without meaning to be, to people who actually have very soft personalities. And, if you have a strong personality, you can really make them feel really, really bad quite quickly. And even though you don't really mean to do it, it's just the difference in people's personalities when they're soft and they just don't have they don't have your resilience yet. Not to say they won't get your resilience, but they feel tramped on by you, and it's hard to try and be careful and to also make the rest of your team, especially like these young runners that are still coming on board for us, first job in hospitality, we don't want to put them off.
No, exactly. So what was your growth journey, your learning journey in terms of that level of leadership, coming in from that rough environment and initially maybe being a bit rough, direct, nasty, and learning how to kind of get everyone on board?
I've had lots of mentors over the years. I remember, Don Fletcher from Debrett's. He was a very good manager of people. My father was an exceptional manager of people. After all, he had 5 children. The better I became, the less I needed to stomp on people.
Right.
But often in those early years, I didn't know that half the people didn't want to get to the top like I wanted to.
Exactly.
So therefore, it didn't even occur to me that we weren't on a dog-on-dog race. I was just like merrily chomping my way away. And it took a long time to realize that we're not all on the same journey.
And so was there a certain moment of like reckoning, or a moment that mirrored that back at you where you're like, hey, actually, that's not how I want to show up anymore? Or was that a gradual process?
Oh, no, it was just gradual. It was just gradual. I just think as you become, you make a few mistakes and you get a few things right and you don't make those mistakes again, and then gradually sort of start to learn more. And I just think you you probably just soften with a bit of age, and probably motherhood makes you a bit softer too. You start caring about something else.
Yeah, well, that's a really important part as well. And I think what you said before really landed for me is like when you develop more confidence in your own ability, the need to prove yourself becomes less and less. Often, if I look back, I think we're quite similar in personalities and being in leadership positions at a young age. And if I look back at how I showed up for my team at times, and I know I've been told many a time how direct I am when I didn't even realize. I thought I was just speaking. But looking back, I think a lot of that came from a deep insecurity and wanting to like play the part because it wasn't like yet matched with that substance. And I think what you said was really beautiful, the experience of having some fuck ups under your belt, but also knowing what does work really well.
Yes, it's getting your own confidence so that you don't feel a need to, and also recognizing that you're trying to get these people to work with you.
Yeah.
And we need them to have confidence.
Yeah.
And if you stomp on them, then they're not going to open their mouths and talk when they really got something to say that you need to hear.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, it's not going to work for you.
No, and but that's also something that I've always noticed in working with you and also just in life as a friend. You welcome different perspectives, different points of view. So creating a culture where people can open their mouths and give suggestions or speak up if something's not working.
I might still say to them, though, I've already done that and I know it doesn't work, so we're not going to do that.
Thank you for sharing. We're not going to do that.
We're not going to do that.
Well, and that is absolutely fine, right? But the fact that there's a culture of them being able to share their thoughts or ask questions, I think that was one of the biggest things that I struggled with, getting the team to feel safe enough to ask questions if they didn't know. Don't nod along if you don't know what I'm saying. 9 out of 10 times I'm talking out of my ass. Just tell me that you're not getting it.
You can't be, if you're a scary bear, mate, you're not going to get anything.
Well, that's it. It's true, yeah. And I mean, that's the thing, the finding that balance between having clear boundaries, knowing who you are and what you want, not being scary. There's a fine line there because...
Well, everybody still says I'm scary, though.
I'm terrified of you.
That's crap.
It is. Okay, well, that's because you just said something really important. It was also motherhood that changed you in a way. You came back from London. I think you were 26 when you opened your first restaurant.
Well, maybe 26, 27, yeah.
Yes.
I came back, and first of all, I was the head chef down at Sales, right beside now my new restaurant, First Mate.
I know how you've gone full circle.
And everybody said to me, why are you going down there? And I said, well, I've been down here before.
I know these streets. I know these ways.
Streets. I know this is a nice spot. So yes, I did, but I only went in as a quarter shareholding at Ramsay's Bar and Grill. It was in Newmarket.
Well, still, 26, 27, whatever it is, to buy in to your first restaurant, like that requires a level of confidence.
I probably was overconfident.
Perfect.
Oh, it was 1989. There we go. It's 19. Let's just go here. We're still in the recession after the 87 crash. Let's go right here.
Yeah, exactly. You're back here. It's still the worst financial climate, and you're like, you know what I'm going to do?
The worst financial decision.
Was it though?
Well, it could have ended up a car wreck. My father was setting up a milk treatment plant in Pakistan, and he was an accountant. And my mother and father were living in Pakistan for a year. He was setting up a milk treatment plant for the World Health Organization.
Oh my God, I learn new things about you every time we speak.
And he came home and he went, oh my God. And he just took one look at the accounts and he just was like, right. Boom, you need to make this many people redundant. You need to change your rosters and do this. You've got to do this. And he came in and he...
Well, because you just, in London, you'd learned how to cook and to run a kitchen like a business.
Yes.
But the rest of the business is...
No. After the first year, so it was early 1990. And this was really the worst time. after that crash. It's like this one. You know how long it's taking to come out?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the last one, well, that one was exactly the same. 4 years it took.
Yeah.
So we're only at the same point, really, as now. We couldn't pay the bills coming up to the 20th of January for the booze. You know, and my father said, well, you're not waiting to the 20th of January to not pay it. We're making an appointment right now, and you're going in to talk to these booze companies, and you're going to tell them that you can't pay them on the 20th, and you're going to tell them that this is going to be your payment plan.
I love it. I love it.
I know. It was just amazing. So we had to go in and do that. So, you know, that's just one of the many things that my father taught me.
But it's also amazing because I can imagine, you know, at that age, just having gone to the other side of the world, a lot of other people would also have this kind of idea of like, I know it all. I mean, we talk about this, look at our kids sometimes, you know, young and sometimes dumb, but think they know it all because, you know, you do at that age. How was it to have him step in like that? And
as I said, he was always the most lovely man. So therefore, he was fantastic, you know. So I already had an office person, but he was like, he set me up with because to run a hospitality business, you need 3 key indicators weekly. If you don't have these 3 figures weekly and they're not in line, you know, you can make a huge loss by the time you run a set of accounts by, let's say, the 15th of the following month.
And then you're way too deep in already.
Exactly. So you have to know what your wage cost, your food cost, and your liquor cost is within 2 or 3 days of the week prior.
Like, seriously, listen up, anyone in hospo, because hospo is one of those industries that has a sexiness to it and this romantic notion that it's easy and it's fun, and a lot of people think they can do it, but the actual controls behind it and running like a business is something I've seen a lot of backs of houses of hospo businesses.
Well, you have to, and look, I still do exactly that every week now from what he taught me, those 3 key indicators back then. But, you know, though, like about keeping that on track. I mean, the expense lines are going to fluctuate.
Yeah.
But the 3 key indicators are where you're going to make or break. Or if it's going out the back door, or maybe it's going out the front door.
It's going out of some door.
You'll be able to see it in those in a weekly, and then you'll pick it up again if there is a problem at the month, but you'll know in that short space of time.
Yeah, because that is like, what would your advice be to it doesn't even have to be hospitality business owner, because I think this is true for any business, right? We all have our key controls, whatever your industry is. And in my experience working, 8 years now as a business coach, I see so many people who are terrified of their numbers. So what they do is the same thing little kids do when they play hide and seek. They cover their eyes, and I'm like, if I can't see you, then you're not there, right? I can't see you, you can't see me. Especially when it comes to their finances. And your approach is a really proactive approach, looking at the numbers.
So we set the whole management team down. We want the management team to be quite clear on what the numbers are.
Yeah.
Each week.
And understand how that...
Because otherwise they need to know that we are managing it.
Yeah.
But I remember I was exactly the same. When my father made me sit down and go through the accounts every month, line by line by line, I used to be like that too. Blinkers. I know there's only one way to learn it, and that's to go through it line by line and learn what goes into each of those categories and what is causing that. There's no other way.
It's true. And I wish I had that, because in my first business, when I first started my agency, I had no idea of that. And it was like, I don't want to have anything to do with that. I have my accountants for that. It's just like, I would just, if I was going to make a bigger investment, I would go to my finance guy, and actually my stepdad at the time as well, who's amazing. But also this wasn't his expertise, and he didn't have the in-depth knowledge of what was going on in the business. So I'd be like, oh, well, I want to, move offices or hire a new team member. This is what it's going to cost. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. That's there. I think it was about 10 months of us not realizing that we were operating on income, like revenue, and measuring the expenses based on what came in, but not realizing that one of the big projects we were doing had a ridiculous cost of goods sold. So all of that was still going out, and I was on the verge of bankruptcy. And in one night, I had 6 people on my team. I had to fire 5 of them.
We all learn.
Well, hopefully some people learn from this instead of doing it the hard way.
Because that's exactly, I know it's hard to make people redundant, but sometimes it's either you or them.
Well, yeah. I remember distinctly having a conversation with the one girl that stayed. She's the one that actually ended up buying Typhoon when I sold it. And having a conversation with her and saying, hey, if there was ever a time you believed in this kind of weird thing that I'm building, remember that right now, because we're about to do the work of 6 people or 8 people with the 2 of us. And I had given myself, when I found out, I said, I have 3 months. I said to my then husband, give me 3 months. I know it sounds ridiculous because we're on the verge of bankruptcy, but I'm going to turn this around. And if I don't, I'll close the door. And we did in 3 months.
Yeah.
But it took that for me to actually fall in love with my numbers and understand them and not have this avoidant relationship with it.
Oh, No, I think that probably I don't share the final numbers with enough of the team yet. But, they sort of say they want to look, but also I sort of see the blinkered look as well. But, I need a succession plan for when I don't want to work as much. So at some point I'm going to have to find a way through this.
Yeah.
On letting them take a little more and me take a little less. But I haven't started that yet.
Well, I mean, you've just opened this new place, but I think that's a really important point, because there is that fine line between sharing and building that understanding, but also with a limited view of what goes on and actually what goes out. I've had people in my team in the past that I've kind of taken on board that journey that then had this idea that I was, pocketing crazy amounts of money because they see the totals coming in, but they don't see the totals going out and the risk that I'm taking and the years without salary. So that balance between sharing and...
Yes, I don't know the answer to this either yet.
Oh, so damn it. I was hoping you had figured it out.
Well, I'm not sure yet. It's a TBC.
It's a TBC. We'll get there. But your dad helped you out. You went to all the liquor suppliers and said, guys, this ain't gonna be it this month.
But they didn't put me on COD. They took the payment plan and we made it.
Because you also proactively communicated.
If it had just got to the 20th and we hadn't paid it, they could have just cut you off.
Yeah.
But they didn't, and it's been long-term relationships with those companies, and I'll never forget that, having to do that.
No, it's a humbling experience, I can imagine. But also when you see the reaction, I think what a lot of people forget, especially in the early days of running a business, is it's all human to human. Like, yes, it's a business, and yes, there's an outstanding invoice, but if you approach them as a human and say, hey, this is it, this is what I can do, and you have my word that I will do what I can.
Yeah, well, my father made me read every line in the lease. You know how big those lease documents are, don't you?
God.
He made me do so many things. I had to walk around all the streets to find out what everyone was paying in rent for a rent review to make sure we didn't get one too high and all of this sort of stuff. It was, there's a lot of learning then.
It's a lot of learning, but the learning that brought you to the point of selling Ramsay's.
I did, yes. It was, it was a really good learning one there, but I didn't really make much money. I didn't think, Newmarket's a very good site myself for a restaurant. It wasn't really a very good site, but I didn't lose any money.
I mean, and given the timing of that, and also, mind you, having a baby in the middle of that.
Yeah.
And I believe calling a moving truck and leaving your husband with a toddler.
Yeah.
Also in the middle of that, whilst running your restaurant at the tail end of the recession. Not losing money seems like a pretty impressive feat to me.
Yes. And then I was like, okay, I just was like, I'll just go and just get a job. I just needed a little break. I actually just went to Italy and got a villa in Italy.
As one does.
Well,
it's very Eat, Pray, Love of you before Eat, Pray, Love was a thing.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It had a really good break. And then I was like, okay, and I got a job. I went to Sky City because I had a restraint of trade there as well. I had a restraint of trade.
Oh yeah, I've been there, done that. That's a good learning as well.
Yeah, I went to Sky City, which wasn't. It's not me. Well, I guess I just didn't know how to operate in a large corporate. I'm sure it's not like that now, but I think I'm going to blame it all on me and go,
yeah,
I don't know how to work in a large corporate environment because I've been the boss by now.
Honestly, I'm the same. And even in my agency with the big corporate clients, we had the luxury, we represented big brands, Hendrix, Heineken, Espresso, but I always struggled in those environments because I've, like you, from,
There's too much
16.
consulting. They're consulting all the time. They've got to communicate.
Do something.
They take so long to make a decision because there's so many different people who have to tick the box before the decision gets made.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It was really tough. It's really tough to work in that if you're not like that.
Yeah.
Or you've never had that experience.
Well, I mean, even with the experience, someone said a couple of years ago before I started the Powerhouse Diaries, and they're like, well, why don't you get a job? And I was like, I am officially unemployable. Now, don't get me wrong. If I needed to, I would. But it's a whole different language. It's a different way of speaking, of operating that, I'm sure we could learn. But
it's just the way every email is kept and filed just in case we've got to pull them back out for us protection.
It is. It's about pushing everyone. Anyway,
yeah, I know.
We love you.
Okay.
If you're working in a great big company,
I'm sure it's changed. I'm just going to jump out. Good things going on up there, I'm sure. I'm just going to say it didn't work for me.
No, exactly. No, honestly, with all due respect, it's definitely us. It's definitely, there's people who thrive in that environment.
To say I didn't learn some things though. I did learn a lot.
Tell me what you learned.
Always learning. I did learn some big number stuff that being a restaurant with, say, like a $2 or $3 million turnover.
Yeah.
I was looking at restaurants that maybe had 6 or 7 million turnover then.
Yeah.
I feel like I did learn bigger brain on
Yeah,
numbers.
it stretches your perception of what's possible.
Yes, I could still read there. I could still read the set of accounts.
Yeah.
The accounts, because they still looked the same to me as my own, but bigger numbers. But I did actually learn a few. I always learn, but I did learn a few number things there.
Yeah, learned a lot. And it is sometimes important, I feel, to see things in a different scope than you're used to. It kind of stretches your imagination of what's possible. Now you can see that the same principles apply to, double the turnover.
Yes.
You found out, not a corporate girly.
No, but then I got offered another job as a restaurant, the general manager of Meccano, which was down on the waterfront. It went off, like it really ramped up the turnover there.
Yeah.
And it was good. I had a good team. And I was going to buy in there.
That was the initial plan.
Yes. And in fact, if my lawyer hadn't been on holiday, that deal would have been done and I would have been a half owner of Meccano and never been sold at all.
Oh my, talk about the butterfly effect. If your lawyer hadn't been on holiday, you would have bought in there.
Yes.
And Soul would have never happened because Soul was 20-year legacy project.
Yeah, 18.
18, sorry.
So, yes, I was just about, the documents had been drawn and he went away and I was going to do it. And then I'd already looked at the site, Soul site, and I couldn't work out how to get to it. I'd even got my husband to ring up and say, who's got that site?
Some insider knowledge.
Yes. And then they called me through a sort of a mutual friend. And that's what happened. And overnight, about 2 or 3 days later, I just went into Meccano and said, I'm sorry, I'm going now.
Tell me about.
I picked up my pasta machine, and well, I was too big. Somebody does.
It's heavy.
Machine, yeah.
It's heavy.
Yeah, and left.
And there you went. I mean, can we just stop there for a second? Because the level of just gut and intuition and just trusting that in a moment like that is mind-blowing to me. You know, like you say, you've made up your mind initially. You're about to buy into this restaurant. Yes, you've seen a site and you've been curious, but how in a few days, like, was there a certain knowing what happened?
Okay, so Eric Watson owned it, but he didn't know how to operate it. So he didn't operate it. So I was happy with 50%, and which was the deal. And he and I met at the Metropolis in the bar downstairs with my husband, and somebody else was there. And then the deal got done on a napkin.
Oh my God, it's like a movie. I love this. The Metropolis, a napkin deal.
A napkin deal.
Oh my God.
A napkin deal. And then the documents had to get drawn, and then there was a toing and a froing, and some things to sort out. Still, my father's there, and my husband, who happens to be a commercial lawyer. So
that's helpful.
Let's just say this is now very helpful. But that's what happened, and the deal was done, and money was paid over, and there I was, and then I had to name it and finish the build and write the menu.
Was there ever a moment between the cocktail napkin and the ink drying on the dotted line that you laid there awake thinking,
oh, not really. I think that because I loved that site. I was like, this is the best site,
It's a knowing. It's like this kind of intuitive of like, yeah, this is my place.
Well, I also knew what the numbers were at Meccano. And so basically I wrote the budget like on the turnover.
Yeah.
I based them on the turnover there because I figured if I can do that at Meccano, then I can do that there. So I just ran the budget like that. And that's sort of what happened. And I know I'm not one who's going to go and buy really fancy plates or really fancy crockery and cutlery because I know I have
your numbers, your controls.
I know that there's no point in buying ridiculous glassware that's going to smash at $20 a glass because in fact probably going to go through hundreds.
Yeah.
So. And also I wanted to come down in the market a little bit. So it had previously been another restaurant called Finn's with a fish pond through the middle of it.
No fish pond, no crayfish for you.
No.
Had your fair share of that.
There's only goldfish in there, not crayfish. That's pretty much. Because that's what happens when you get to 40, I think. I don't know what you think, but that moment that you're not 40 yet, are you?
I am.
Oh, sorry.
I love 40. This because I'm younger than most of my friends.
You don't look 40.
And so everyone is like, thinks I'm eternally not 40.
Yeah.
So you're not 40, I'm 41.
I was at your 40th anyway. But it just was like, okay.
Yeah, just do it.
I think that's what happens. There's a moment when you hit 40 and all of a sudden, without knowing it, you start to realize that you know a bit more than what you did, a few years ago. You just start to realize Not to say you don't stop learning, because you do.
No. Well, and I think for me, the biggest thing is, yes, that you know more than you did, when I look back at, when I started Typhoon, I was 24, I had a baby, I was pushing the stroller with my foot whilst trying to type emails, I was trying to get sponsored deals from
I was changing nappies in the office.
Yeah,
I think, one of the kitchen people at Ramsay's actually had my son sitting on a tablecloth beside her when she washed the dishes in the restaurant.
I have this distinct memory of being in a sponsorship negotiation before I did Typhoon, I ran an event called the Amsterdam Bar Week. And basically all the spirit brands were sponsors. And I remember sitting there, 24, 25 years old, and sitting in a sponsorship negotiation for 10 grand or something, which at the time I was like, oh my God, like 10 grand, with these two 20-something-year-old boys that were working for, was it Bacardi or something? And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, I need to go home. I need to feed my baby. You know that feeling where you're like, I'm going to burst.
My tits are leaking.
My tits are leaking. But I can't tell these 20-something-year-old boys that. And I'm like, I'm trying to be cool. We're doing the bar week. Anyway, different story. But yeah, so I don't even know if it's so much more knowing. It's knowing that whatever happens, you'll navigate it. You can deal with it.
Yes. You sort of have the bones to put together. I mean, there were things like writing the menu, and I thought, well, I've just written the new menu down at Meccano, where I used to do, 5 fish, 5 ways, which went well. And I was like thinking, well, I can't do that again because I've just done that.
Yeah.
And, I rang my friend Greg Malouf, who very sadly passed away, modern Middle Eastern. I'd had him as a guest chef a couple of times already.
Amazing.
He was the most beautiful man. And I said to him, look, I'm getting this new restaurant. Would you come and help me write the menu and help me open it? He's like, oh, yeah, okay, cool, no problem.
Yeah.
So, I brought him over, I put him up in that hotel above, and I didn't want it to be completely Middle Eastern, but I just needed to, get something new.
Yeah, and you've done that, throughout the years, obviously, 18 years of Soul. You've always gotten guest chefs in. You travel a lot to get inspired, which is something I think is essential to your success as well.
Well, it's easier to bring a chef from overseas in than take your whole kitchen team over there.
That's a good point. Cheaper also.
It's also cheaper. It's about identifying what you think is something that you need your chefs to learn, and then you bring them in so they learn a new trick, which is good for them.
Yeah,
it's good for the customers. It's good for everyone to have a learning experience by working with different people. So I've brought in Italian a few times. I had a Mexican chef, which was well before Mexican was even popular.
Yeah.
And that guy has gone on to open restaurant. He only had a restaurant in Mexico City there. Now he's got 2 in LA and 1 in New York.
That's
and in fact, I was
amazing.
in his one in downtown LA probably about 10 days ago, and it was still phenomenal. The food was phenomenal.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you travel a lot and get a lot of inspiration from...
It's called research.
Oh, yeah, it's research.
As far as the inland revenue is concerned. Be
It's
careful of the
research. It's a business expense.
Yes.
You were sharing the story that Jack, your son, who is now also at your restaurant, was asking you your research.
Yes.
And in the background of this video was adding up all the receipts from the cocktails. Espresso martini here and margarita there.
Forgetting a receipt can be terrible for my accountant. It's it's a mortal sin, that one. The tip situation makes the service normally really good. We were talking about it earlier.
Yeah.
I do enjoy that because it feels like world-class service, but it always puts me right in the space to walk back into my own restaurant and say, now I saw this in America, and I think we're going to do this.
And that is, you're always innovating, whether it's with your menu or with events you're doing. You're always looking for the next thing.
Oh, I never leave that restaurant without a copy of the menu. What I normally say is, I've got a friend who's got a restaurant.
Subtle. Asking for a friend.
Yes. Would I be able to take a copy of their menu home for them to have a look at? But, it's not that I could get the menu online, but actually I want to look at the paper grade.
Oh, yes.
I want to look at the colour of the paper. I want to look at the, the layout styles. All of those things are important for moving me forward.
It's all about the details. But, okay, because I feel like we're getting to this part of the story that it's been a bit of a whirlwind. So you're in Seoul, you're rocking it. There's no more goldfish pond in the restaurant, and it rapidly becomes a phenomenon, an iconic part of the Auckland hospitality industry. Now, fast forward just a quick 18 years to the sale.
Eric wanted to sell 50%. So I had the choice to either purchase his 50 or we sold the whole lot.
Yeah. And the sale made the news here.
Yeah.
It was, I think, the biggest restaurant sale, at least.
It was that menopause word, and I was tired. Just the sleeping. It was the whole, and initially I tried to put together a couple of the staff for a buyout. Initially I thought that's what I would do, but when they couldn't agree to be paid the same amount,
God.
and they wanted to have a battle over who was more important, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take the money and run.
Yeah.
And I thought I wanted to retire. I really did. I really thought.
I remember it was
Yeah.
really cute. You're
Yeah.
like, I'll just do nothing. I'll just lie in bed and chill
Watch
and
TV.
travel.
Yeah.
That lasted about 5 minutes.
No, because I had a restraint of trade anyway.
No, I know, but your desire to actually do nothing.
Well, you can only walk so many miles and go to so many Pilates classes.
Yes, and you tried.
I did try that, but then of course COVID came in as well.
Yeah, because this is also, so it was announced,
Yes.
and it was right before COVID.
And it wasn't my intention to stop working completely, but by this stage, I lost 4 years. Well, I got 4 years older. I didn't lose them. I just seriously got 4 years older.
Yeah.
But my mother's 93. It's a long time from now to 93 to do nothing.
What was that process like? Because I was lucky enough to kind of witness part of that journey. And it wasn't, you're right, it's a long way from here to 93. And it's also a very different phase of your life to make such decisions. It's not 18 years ago or even 26, 27 when buying into Ramsay's.
Well, I sort of looked at, Seek and thought, shall I look for a job?
I know, it was so cute. No one would hire. You're like, I thought people would hire me. I'm like, people are...
I didn't even apply for a job, to be
No.
honest. And then I kept getting rung up about sites. I mean, people were ringing me, the guys were ringing me about sites.
I know.
I did try to get the First Mate site in 2019 before COVID. I rang up and it was gone. So I liked that site in 2019. But the people who got it then, of course, would have had a super rough time. They had a super rough time with the liquor license, and then they had a super rough time over COVID because they had 2 other businesses. So
Was it ever operational? I don't even know.
no, it never, not even didn't get open. No, but they had
COVID.
Yeah, they had COVID as well. But they just cut their losses and jumped out. And finally, I managed to get in there. Finally, they rang me again. I'm like, God, I've been trying to get hold of you guys for years. What's going on?
But tell us, if you will, about that process of...
Oh, it was terrible because I'd lost my confidence. You don't realise how much... I mean, that's what I said to you. I was like, I feel I know how women who get out of the workforce when they stop for childbearing years and then try to get back in, I can see, because it's never happened to me before, right?
No, because you've worked through everything.
I've worked through everything. So this is the first time I'd been out of the workforce for 5 years, my whole life.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, and you do lose your confidence.
Yeah, and then there's also the age question.
Oh, I said that to you. When I met you for a coffee, I was feeling are people going to think I'm super mad? Are people going to be judgmental? Yeah. Like, I really felt that.
I remember you
saying.
I
really felt that. I was like,
you're like, I know you will tell me the truth. Am I too old to do this? I'm like, are you crazy? But it's true. And we were talking about this. There is a certain age where women become invisible, and doing something like this becomes almost a act of rebellion, like a crazy act. I think, how did people...
I only had a couple of comments about it. I did have a couple of men say, give me just had a little bit of a tone in their voice when they were talking to me.
I would love to have watched men talk to you with a tone.
I did bite this guy's head off.
Yeah.
I did bite it off because I was like, you've offended me.
Yeah, exactly. You want to see emotional? Here's emotional. But isn't that interesting? Are those comments that you think a man would have gotten as well?
No, of course not.
No.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. But, if you have to buy yourself a job, you got to buy yourself a job. I mean, but, there was quite a few times. I was quite stressed over that setup time.
It wasn't an easy trajectory.
It was a long time since I'd done a full setup. So I didn't enjoy the design process. It was my fault. I chose the wrong designer to start with, and that was a $45,000 mistake to go and get a new one, which wasn't good. Which, of course, really was quite... Because
you're already feeling a bit...
Well, because I felt like I was losing where I wanted the brand to go, and they were making it their restaurant, not my restaurant.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like to me, was I was losing my concept by giving too much, by allowing too many other people to make decisions.
Yeah.
When it's going to be my concept.
Yeah, and it's coming from a place of that softening of like, hey, I actually need to kind of play nice and that kind of loss.
And you want to be in, but then I really started to get nervous about whether it would come together because there are too many people getting involved in my slot.
Too many chefs in the kitchen.
And so it took a bit, I nearly went into a partnership, but they didn't like my name, so that's okay. Probably better. It was quite stressful. Just at that particular time, I mean, once I was up and running, it was just getting it ready to go.
Yeah, getting it ready to go. Coming from that 5-year hiatus with the doubts and insecurities that naturally come with that, and then having those hiccups along the way, which makes what happened this week, I think, even more special. I think you've been open just over a year now. You had your 1-year birthday party, which anyone who's here in Auckland, Jude's events are always just out of the gate. Just amazing. I think at one point I was looking over at the DJ booth and the DJ had dancers with giant disco ball heads. And I was like, I love this. But now the hat awarded by Cuisine, the team being up and
the team
running.
were delighted. It was fantastic. Yeah, It was it was most unexpected, really. And, congratulations to the other restaurants. I mean, I'm not really trying for a 3-hat myself because that's not probably my food style, but I like volume. I'm a volume girl.
She likes her numbers, guys.
Yeah, I'm a numbers. I'm in the numbers game. So but it was a great night. Possibly a bit later than what it should be for my age.
Don't be ageist to yourself. So wrapping this up, because I can do this forever. We actually do most times when we hang out. Looking back, because it's quite a journey from 77, having the government pay half your salary just to get you in that kitchen and being tolerated as a woman in this men's world, to doing it again, creating something unique, magnificent, successful from scratch. Now, instead of your father by your side, your son, your stepdaughter's in the business, your best friend is in the business. I feel like it's kind of come full circle.
Well, if it's good enough for my father to teach me, it must be good enough for me to bring the others along with me. Let's hope. I mean, I never felt that Jack really wanted to be he was too young to be involved when really at Soul. So it's nice to work with him, actually. I'm having a bit of fun. He's very creative and he's so good on the AI. He just calls AI his assistant.
Perfect. Perfect. And he's really good at taking the piss out of you.
Yes, he loves taking the piss out of me on social media. It's highlight of his week, which I allow him to do.
And my week, really, just to watch it.
But it's fun to see him each day.
So looking back, you have this incredible journey behind you. You touched upon it earlier a little bit. What's the legacy you want to leave? What's the end point in terms of the business?
I lined it up as a 5-year, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a 5.
We all know you're full of shit.
So much work to be done. It's always busy.
Yeah.
It's the same in any business, but it's a constant. You're on a you're like a rat going around a year, hurrying to catch up with the next project you've got on. I'm hoping, to see what Amy and Jack want to do. Yeah. And see what the team want to do. I feel like I'm a little bit more relaxed. We keep saying every year you get more relaxed, right? Every year you're not, no, it's just...
It'll be okay.
Yeah, it'll be okay. We'll just see. Yeah, just getting the team ready to do it on their own would be good so that, you can... if you want to take time, you can take time off.
Any advice you would give the younger female hospo professionals, not just here in New Zealand, all around the world, listening, who share your passion? Any words of wisdom, things you wish you had known?
Oh my goodness, there's too many things. I just think it's always just keep learning. Never stop learning. That's it. That's the trick, really.
And know your controls. Know your numbers.
Know your numbers. Yeah, sorry. Don't put your blinkers on.
Amazing. So we have a bit of a tradition. I have to say it's not really a tradition because I often forget. But sometimes we flip the script on the interview. So is there any questions to wrap this up? Any question you'd like to ask me?
Well, I want to know why you're not doing hospitality marketing anymore, because had you been doing hospitality marketing, do you know when I opened First Mates who I would have come to help me?
No idea. I don't know.
And I was like, why? If she was so bloody good at it, is she not doing it anymore?
I first of all appreciate that. I really did love it, but it's more my personal experience. So when I sold my business, that wasn't necessarily my choice, and the way the whole process went down, as you know, was quite a intense time of my life.
Yeah.
I was forced to sell it, and I was forced to sell it at a price that was quite ridiculous for what it was worth. In hindsight, silver linings, it was a few months before COVID, and I had about 50 staff all over the world, and it was a blessing in disguise. But the whole process of selling it and getting out of that business, also a restriction of trade, 3 years globally.
3 years?
3 years globally.
I think I would have battled that. I feel, let's just say this now. 18 months. Do not sign anything at more than 18 months. And only in a specific area.
It made no sense. It made no sense at all.
How can they stop you from earning your living?
It made no sense. But like I said, the whole sale wasn't something that I had a lot of say in. It was part of a very crazy time of my life. When I sold that business and let go, I felt like it had been ripped out of my hands. I was very bitter about it for a very long time. Any kind of dipping my toes back in there kind of felt too much of that time in my life. So what I did was go for coffee, and I'll give you so happily my 2 cents. When I finally could recreate a business like that, it was just too close to home. And I was like, actually, clean cut, do something else. So yeah, that's
you're doing very well then.
And I mean, and I'm really happy to. It was such a beautiful chapter. It was where I grew up, where I went from baby entrepreneur to multinational, multi-million-dollar business, which sounds really impressive, but I was absolutely miserable. And, you know, if you talk about pushing your way or not being self-aware, and I didn't stop long enough to actually feel and be a person. And the sale put me on my ass, but it also allowed me to build a business that allowed for a little bit more
freedom is the word.
That's it.
It's freedom.
It's freedom. And that was also needed because, you know, as a solo mom, no co-parent or family around, I needed the flexibility.
Yeah.
I can't have a team of 50 people depending on you. So yeah.
Okay. Well,
that was it. But still,
you were so good.
Jude, it was such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your story, your time. Now let's go to your restaurant and have a drink.
Okay, sounds like a plan.